About two games that people really, really love that I thought were poorly designed. So poorly designed I couldn't keep playing them anymore. The first being Pizza Tower, which is a really cool game. In terms of its like actual gameplay, amazing. This is a person speedrunning the level, and they're gonna do a lot of really great stuff, and it's fun. Like this is the fun way to play, almost. Um, the problem with this is that like, let's see, I'm gonna skip ahead a ways. They're gonna do everything right, everything right. Right now they have an A, level A here, which is what I got on my very first try, walking slowly through the level and just having a collectathon with no effort. They're also going to have collected all the little things. Once again, something that I did on my very first try, just by walking through the level slowly with no effort. After all this, they're going to run through the whole thing, get to the very end of the level, pass by the exit, start over again, and then get a super and a perfect by double lapping the level, which is super impressive. And for all their effort, they will end up with this. A couple things on the screen. There's no mention of how fast they went. You get these little eyes for finding the secrets. You get this little thing for unlocking a door. I had an A here. You collect these guys. Basically, there's no big difference. You just have like a couple some pixels on the screen, and you can pat yourself on the back. Further, when they do finish the level, they will get to do this every time. They get a nice like this long thing, and then you don't always get the P, but it goes through this whole thing before it shows you your score, as if that's the fun thing, is to get a high score, and then finally shows you your time, which you will never get to see again. And then it boots you out of level, and you get to start all the way from the beginning, going through this whole thing. So essentially, there's no reward for speedrunning, except for, maybe you get the high score thing. It doesn't progress the game. If you want to, you can get through the game by just walking slowly through levels, doing nothing fun. And if you want to do the fun stuff, it's going to make you watch an intro. It's going to make you wait until the end of everything before you get to see what you're doing. It's a game that's meant to be sped run, but it just doesn't make it fun to speedrun, and it doesn't reward you for it. It only rewards you for walking around slowly collecting shit. If you want, you can make it your own thing, and you can like try and get it perfect, but then you're achievement hunting, at which point you're going to hate yourself for trying to get every achievement. That's just how games are. If you try and get every achievement and you don't hate yourself by the end, like, I don't know, you're a different person than me. So it's just like either the game's too easy because you just collect the stuff and beat it, or it's really freaking hard and nearly impossible, and you hate it by the end because like trying to collect every achievement is going to be very hard. Or the most likely situation, you just kind of get done with it and there's no real ending. So that's how a game that is otherwise amazing can ruin itself, by just not rewarding the player for playing the fun way. It punishes you. It makes you wait for stuff you don't get to see your time. Here's Neon White. I'm just showing this little screenshot. This is a game where you also speedrun. It shows you your time. It shows you your last run. When you get to the end of the level, you can restart quickly. In the middle level, you can also restart quickly. You can do that in Pizza Run, thankfully. But like, you can just drill and it will let you. It's not going to show you a big intro to the level. It's not going to do this like breakdown. It's not going to give you a bunch of information about stuff that wasn't really that hard. Like getting the points, you can get a lot of points just walking through the level. You can get fine. And then getting past that, So it's just, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate how a good game can be made quite bad. The other game that I thought wasn't very good for reasons is Elden Ring. This is a this is a map of all of the warp points in Elden Ring. So when you first start playing Elden Ring, you're like, wow, this is huge. Like you can kind of see off in the distance, and it just keeps going and going and going. And like the world feels big. And then that's a lot of the fun, is being like, this is a big, big world. But then with every step you take, you get a little bit closer to another one of these warp points. And as you collect the warp points, you're essentially, one a couple movements in your screen. Like you go to your map and choose one, and you're there, right? Like the more you explore the world, the smaller it gets. Every point, anywhere you go, is a couple clicks away from any one of these other points. And there's multiple issues with that. I mean, the first, that it just makes the world tiny. Like, it doesn't matter how much world there is. If you can just teleport anywhere, there's no distance between you and anything else. Secondly, really big issue, they make it so that you can warp from anywhere you want to one of these points. So if you go deep into something that's really, like, you fight your way into a position, you can at any point be like, you know what, I made it far enough, I'm going to warp out, I'm going to go do something easier. It never challenges you. Like, you can challenge yourself if you want to. Um, but, like, at any point when I was playing, uh, I just found that if I got to a certain point where I couldn't do it anymore, I would warp out, go do something else that was probably way too easy at that point because it had once been hard and I'd leveled up. And then, I mean, that was just it. Most of the game was me either, like, I really had to try and find places where the difficulty was correct. And that's because you can come at any one of these things from anywhere else. There's no way for them to make a difficulty curve between this point and all of these points. It can't be done. Um, so the difficulty curve is just all over the place constantly, and you kind of have to make it happen yourself. Um, and I mean, the last thing is that, like, unfortunately, I think From Software accidentally made one half of a good game with Dark Souls 1. And it's one of my favorite one halves of a game ever. And the way they did that is they didn't have warping at all. So what that meant is that when you, in Dark Souls, go into Blighttown, you go deep into this, like, swampy cave filled with poison and goblins, and it's really hard, really hard. And every step you go, right, you go from one save location and you work your way up and you get to another one and just that much deeper and that much deeper and that much deeper. You're constantly getting deeper, and the only way out is either through or back, and both of them suck. That's a good situation to put a player in. Like, it forces them to, like, feel something. I didn't feel anything ever in Elden Ring. There was no point at which I couldn't just warp out and, like, go do something else, or, like, grab some new gear and warp back and be like, hey, I'm back. Like, there was no commitment to anything ever. So there's no challenge, right? Like, there's just no point where you're like, I have to do this, and you just keep grinding. And then the places where there are challenge, it's like made up challenge. They have these bosses that are just dumb. They're not appropriate for the difficulty curve, and the way that they try and make them difficult is by just way overdoing it. Yeah, so, like, Elden Ring it just isn't a good game. And frankly, From Software, like, they have a lot of games that have potential, but like, Dark, even Bloodborne, like, I really tried to enjoy it, but the warping just ruins it. It just ruins a game. It makes it so, like, even with the difficulty curve being quite good in Bloodborne, it still just felt like it was this tiny world, and all I was doing was selecting one little place and another. I don't know. It just doesn't. It makes the world feel small. But Dark Souls 1, the first half, the world feels huge. Even though it's tiny compared to all this, it feels huge. And to give an example of how to make it so people can get across a map quickly and how to do it right, there's Hollow Knight. These are the warp locations in Hollow Knight. You can warp from one of them to the other. It means that, like, if you're way out somewhere over here, you're going to have to walk back through some stuff. That's good. That's a good thing. Like, you want to... I know that there are people who are like, no, I just want to teleport everywhere all the time or something like that. But, like, the world gets small. This is how you keep a world big while making it manageable, is that you make it so that, if there were warp locations here and there that you could go between, not just all of them, and you had to get to one to get to the next, that would be awesome. It would make it so that you're actually spending time in the world that you wanted to explore instead of in your map, teleporting to the nearest thing, walking a little bit, and then teleporting to another place. Right? The point is to look around the world and to explore it. So don't make it so I can just teleport wherever I want to go. It also would make it so between any two warp points, you can actually make a legitimate difficulty curve. When it's like this, there's no way to make a difficulty curve. Like there's no way to be like, we want the difficulty to ramp up between here and also between here and here and also between here and here and also between here and here and also like, like you can't. At a certain point, it's just like you can kind of try and do it, but either this one's going to be easy or this one's going to be easy once you get back to it. Like if you go this way, it's going to be easy here. If you go that way, it's going to be easy there. Like there's no good way to make a difficulty curve here. And so Elden Ring it's all over the place. And they couldn't design one, so they didn't. They were just like, nah, just keep teleporting. So yeah, that's two games that took their main thing. Pizza Tower was speedrunning, and they made speedrunning completely, like they punish you for trying to do it. They don't make it quick. They don't make it fun. They don't give you any reward. The only thing you get a reward for is collecting these dumb little things here that do nothing. And it just sort of makes it so it's like, I don't know, the only reward is chasing achievements, which I don't do. It's a waste of my time. If it's meant to be part of the game, make it part of the game. Don't make it an achievement. Make it progress the game. And then this one, yeah, like it's this big world. It's supposed to be a big world. It felt tiny. It felt tiny to me because like I was never more than 5 minutes away from anywhere else I'd ever been. Dark Souls 1, there were points where I had to walk a ways. I got to something and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta go find something else to do. And in Dark Souls 1, I had to walk for quite a while. Hollow Knight, obviously, being a Metroidvania, is not the best example because like places unlock in order, so they can do a difficulty curve and they know where you're entering from and they know where you're exiting to. So I mean that is a somewhat unfair comparison, but it still makes sense that you can make a better difficulty curve between different locations. Like if there's multiple save points, which there are all over in this, then you can actually be like, they're going to get here and they're going to be in the middle of some stuff. And yeah, they can save, but either they have to go a long way back or a long way forward. They can't just warp over here and go do some stuff and then warp back, right? There's actual commitment to the things you are doing. That's important. So that's just me bemoaning some games that are, I mean, I guess I am sad because like the first 28 hours of Elden Ring, maybe the first like 20 hours, I was like, this is awesome. And then I got to the point where the difficulty curve falls apart, right? Because like when you're in this area, it's fine. They can do it at first, and then it just falls apart the bigger the world gets. And I was also sad about Pizza Tower because it is really, really fun when you try and speedrun, except for the part where you have to watch the intro over and over again, and you have to watch it do its whole like end of the level sequence over and over again, and it never tells you what time you have, and it doesn't really show you what your pacing is. You just kind of have to like, it just doesn't feel like it's making it a speedrunning game. So two really amazing games that just fell apart when the developers didn't think about how the main how the main game loop would be supported by the game itself. Okay.